This is Paul with ForReal. I'm here with Graham Battison over across the pond in the UK. So we are on today to talk about some hot stuff and blood pythons, as well as Graham's plans here in the US. So I'm going to go ahead and let Graham kind of give his background, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of everything. How you doing tonight, Graham? And thanks for coming on.
Good, thanks, Paul. Yeah, I'm really good.
Awesome.
We're locked down over here in the UK, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are over there.
You know, it's odd. We're actually really not, which is very strange.
Yeah, so you still got quite a few things open and stuff.
Yeah,
everything's closed here. Schools, everything. Yeah, crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, prayers with all of you guys, and make sure everybody stays healthy for sure.
Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt. Just be safe.
Sure.
So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background, and we'll go ahead and we'll get started and everything else.
Yeah, I suppose best starting with my interest in reptiles and how it really came about.
Mm-hmm.
I was really, really young. You know, going back to before I could walk, maybe, you know, my parents told me, obviously I can't remember now, but my parents told me anything creepy and crawly, I'd be chasing around, you know. Even in the schoolyard when I was a kid, I'd have these sort of little meetings with all the other school kids, and at lunchtime I'd sort of round everybody up, and I'd be feeding spiders that were living in the walls and collecting bugs, and I'm watching these spiders catch all these bugs, and it moved on to collecting frog tadpoles and rearing them, you know, in tanks in the garden. And my dad really sort of got me into, you know, raising frogs into to little froglets and then re-releasing them in the wild. And I think I was 7. I'm 36 now, so it's been it's 29 years really of keeping. Yep. Where that's when I got my first pet lizard. Obviously, you know, I was under the supervision of my father with looking after that thing, but it was an ocellated skink. Okay. He basically took me to this exotic pet store, which is in Manchester, which is like an hour away, and he said to me, "You can pick anything you want." You know, when there was iguanas there and all kinds of this stuff, and you know, for a 7-year-old, an iguana's not an ideal pet. So
no,
they came later. But I got this little ocellated skink. Didn't have a clue how to look after the thing. I kept it with it was like a 40-watt light bulb on a thermostat. Mm-hmm. So to cool the cage down, the light would go out, and then to heat it, it'd come back on. So the skink was having a little disco inside its cage all of the time. And herpetoculture's moved on, thankfully, since those days where, you know, nothing did too well. And I quickly moved on to iguanas, to garter snakes. Bred garter snakes when I was 11 years old, and then I went on to corn snakes and king snakes, and you know, I went through the colubrid thing, western hognose snakes, and then I came about pythons. I think I traded something for a ball python. Mm-hmm. This small ball python, you know. I didn't have much information on them. A couple of Chris Mattison books and stuff where, you know, they were notorious for going on self-imposed fasts and things like that in captivity. People just didn't really understand how to keep them. And, you know, I think with the advent of sort of, you know, captive breeding and keeping things in racks and giving things security and learning how to heat cages better and things like that, ball pythons really started coming along. From having this one ball python, my interest sort of got sparked with reading copies of Reptiles magazine with articles by Bob Clark and stuff like that. We didn't get Reptiles magazine here, but I used to order it from the States and wait patiently for weeks for it to turn up. And there'd be articles in there by Don Hamper, Bob Clark, you know, Bob Applegate on all the colubrids and things like that. And I'd just be fascinated.
Yeah.
You know, and then I sort of... the internet came around as well, and it was sort of when the alternate pages kicked off with Jeff Barringer. It was like the precursor to kingsnake.com.
Yep.
So I used to go on there, and me, this kid in rainy England, I'd be dreaming about being in, you know, in the hills in West Texas looking for great banded kings. But
Yeah.
obviously that was way beyond my expectations back then. But yeah, I mean, I used to follow web pages and websites, the Barkers. I've been pestering Dave and Tracy since since I was a teenager with questions online, and I'm happy to say that they're good friends of mine now. So
That's awesome.
It's sort of really, it's never left me, this reptile thing. There's been a couple of periods where in my teens, I got distracted with things, and I probably had a small collection as opposed to a large one.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I cut back, I found that life sucked. It wasn't
100%.
me. It wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's either all or nothing. I've got to have 100 snakes or I can't have any. And I think having like nothing, it's just not me. My personality
Boring.
is it's very boring. I want to challenge. I want to figure things out. I want to, it really exercises the mind, doesn't it? When you're trying to figure out how animals do what they do, and how they've adapted to various situations. So that came about. I went to ended up going through university and studied zoology.
Okay.
Did some field work in Tenerife, studying some Galotia lizards, the giant Canary Island lizards, and a small tarantula gecko called a Dela landi, which is like a Canary Island Tenerife specialist. And yeah, I've done some field work in South America, in Mexico, in Shankan biosphere, capturing and taking data on morelets crocodiles.
Okay.
That was sort of a biodiversity study of this lagoon in Mexico, and a biologist friend of mine, he actually works now at the University of Oklahoma, Enrique. He's a collections curator now at the university, but I'm hoping to catch up with him again soon. So,
Awesome.
maybe go out and find some gators or something when I'm over there. Come down to Florida.
Yeah, come on down, man. Let us know when you're coming. We just, I did my internship for my Venomous at the Reptile Preservation Institute with Cody.
Cody,
and, Cody and Pia, and we just finished the first 2 croc ponds there and received 6 roughly 28 to 36 inch morelets crocs. So
nice.
Yeah, very, very, very cool animals. Definitely have a great personality. So, but they'll definitely do damage. I mean, from what Cody's told us, they can be a handful. So
they can be temperamental. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do a lot of work right now with blood pythons, right?
Yeah. That's literally my private collection now, is just blood pythons. Okay. That's all I'm keeping at home. I've thinned down the collection a little bit, in anticipation of this move to the States. I've got an export going out in the next month or so, with them sending a bunch of animals over to some customers out there in the States. But then I'll be sending the rest of my collection for a friend to take care of until I'm out there full time,
Now, where are you planning on landing? Like, where do you plan on being at?
Arkansas, a place called Hot Springs in Arkansas.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we're opening 7 locations in the States, and we've just been given the go-ahead for 1,000 acres. This is part of a bigger project, this 1,000 acres, but a facility on the Caribbean coast of Costa Rica.
Wow.
So we're going to be opening a Komodo Village there as well.
Okay.
So awesome. It's not just the States. This is 7 locations in the States and 1 in Costa Rica now. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's overwhelming and daunting at the same time, but really exciting at the same time as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this was I see the pictures of the blood pythons and everything that you post, and they're amazing. If there's one thing I could say, we've never really kept them. We've had a couple here and there, but some of these new, or I call them new morphs because I've never seen some of them, are unbelievable. You know, the color and the size, and like a ball python that's just way cooler looking.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? What's your favorite one so far?
Do you know what? There's so many now, and Dave and Tracy have got like all of these still unproven ones, which, you know, basically going to be proven. But this, I think my favorite just has to be a normal high red blood python. You know, you can get some which are blistering red, like redder than any milk snake. And it's just, for that to be on this big, impressive looking python, it's just an amazing color. And when you find the really red ones with the jet black heads as well,
Yeah.
Cara Norris is working with like certain lineages that look like that over there. And they're just, the contrast on it is just fantastic. But within the bloods, you know, there's about 4 different wild caring looks, wilder caring looks. So there's like a brown phase in the wild, a red phase, a yellow phase, and like sort of like this pinky sort of orange look. So you can get these inheritable morphs now, and you can cross them into these different sorts of wilder caring blood, you know, color morphs sort of. And you can mix the morphs into that as well. So the possibilities with creating these really unique looking animals they're endless, really. I think there's more potential in blood pythons. I think there's more wilder caring morphs in blood pythons than there is in ball pythons.
Okay.
And, you know, there's been a lot less imported too, so you've got to factor that in.
Yeah.
But there just seems to be every year now there's something new getting proven or a new combo. And you know, I've got my own gene that I'm working with that I proved out a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I'm looking to produce a super on in the next year or so. So there's a lot of exciting things. And I think if you're new to blood pythons, you can still sort of do something no one else has done before, because it's, you know, they're that really untouched. If you've got the imagination to pair 2 different looks together, and you can go down whatever road you want to go and produce whatever kind of look you want to go.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you look at what Justin Kabilka's doing with the ball pythons, and just the eye for, like you said, just the eye for put this with that to get this.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff, I mean, the scientific background behind it, and I know some people would say, oh, it's not scientific, they're just throwing things together. No, there's a lot of thought that goes into
definitely
what can do what with what and why it does it. So it's super cool to see some of that stuff, and I think it'll be cooler down the road with the blood pythons as well. I'll be honest, we've had retics and we had golden child and a lot of the purple stuff, and truly the nicest ones were the hatchling, just the normals, just the wild type. You know, perfect crisp pattern, you know, bright orange eyes, you know, just a super pretty snake. So you know, that's what excites me. Is I like morphs, don't get me wrong, you know, they have their place, but I like that wild type look, you know, the naturally occurring look in the wild. So you don't keep any hots at all right now?
No, I think I get my Venomous fix, well, with having 2 small kids now as well. I was considering getting a separate building outside and, you know, airlocking it and doing everything right, but my kids are just too young at the moment. So I get my Venomous fix from a friend of mine who's got an educational facility called ExoTeach.
Okay.
He's got a bunch of different species down there. So anytime I want to go down and do some, you know, some Venomous handling and some DWA training sort of thing, I go down there and do that with him under his guidance, you know, tubing Venomous and pinning and, you know, just learning how to use hooks the right way and cage maintenance and all of that. You know, anytime I want to go down, I'm lucky to have friends who just invite me down to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that was a big deal for us. We keep animals here as a family. My daughter, my wife, both the boys. You know, we all have our stuff, and everybody has something. And I wrote an article in the Herpetoculture magazine about the journey to 1,000 hours. And that was one of the things that I said was, I didn't want to have anything hot until the kids were all old enough and understood the difference between dangerous and dangerous, but not deadly. So, you know, and that's why we waited so long. So, you know, now we're obviously full blown into working with Cody and Pia and, you know, helping them, you know, get their facility up and going and doing the same thing. Like you said, I'm in really no super rush right now, you know, to have anything when I can go there and, I can clean. I have enough poop here to clean. I can go there and clean poop whenever I want.
Well, that's it.
So,
It's nice that you can sort of do these things by proxy and then leave them where they are. But
yeah,
aren't you lucky as well to be under the tutelage of Cody and Pia too? Because
yeah,
they're guys that really, they put everything into what they're doing.
yeah.
And
100%.
the working with hots and stuff for the right reasons, professional,
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
reckless.
and that's part of, again, we've obviously shared some interest in posts online and comments, and I'm going to go ahead and say that I started this program, this Zoom program and YouTube shows to highlight the good, the bad, and everything. This isn't just going to be reptile related. I have plans on doing some other stuff as well.
Yeah.
But everybody gets on and they say, hey, we don't want to mention anybody's names, so if you have something bad to say about somebody, don't. Well, here's the problem. If somebody I know is doing something wrong or doing something bad and I get online and blast them for it and they have no online presence, that's unfair to them.
Sure.
If somebody has an online presence and claims to be a professional, be prepared to be critiqued, because that's what you're opening yourself up to. A professional athlete, a movie star, they open themselves up to saying, hey, if I go out on the street and somebody sees me, they're going to come up to me. That's just a part of my life now.
Yeah.
So these
they're
guys,
asking for it.
Yep. These guys that are recklessly handling animals are making it harder on all of us. And they don't believe that's the case. They think that it's no big deal. And, we can do whatever we want. And it's not going to, you're not going to have anything ill-willed or anything happen to you. And, I happen to know from just talking to our fish and wildlife officers that they are being watched, and so are the rest of us.
Of course.
And that sucks. So, we wanted to get that word out and kind of talk about, some of these guys and, listen, if in my opinion, it's not right to do, I would never do it. But if you're going to do it, just don't do it publicly. Don't do it online. What do you think of the free handling aspect of this hobby at this time, or industry?
Oh, I can't stand it. I think it's a ticking time bomb. I think some of these YouTube guys or content creators or influencers or whatever they like to call themselves, I like watching Dave Kaufman's videos for the most part. But why the hell is he getting these free handling YouTube guys and giving them any kind of spotlight in this industry? And it's an industry where we all need to self-police each other. And what he doesn't realize is he's shooting himself in the foot, and he's shooting the hobby in the foot. The likes of Phil Goss from USR, etc., Bob Ashley, Brian Potter, any of these free handling guys walked into my snake show, I wouldn't want them in there. Yeah. You're bringing it down. You're bringing the standard of the hobby down from 20, 30 years ago, where everybody thought we were the weird misfits who had punk rock hairstyles and there was no science behind this thing that we're doing. They're bringing it back down to before then, back down to the gutter. You've got these religious people walking around with timber rattlesnakes and things like that, and that's an outdated, thing of the past. Another thing that should just be wiped out. Rattlesnake roundup, sort of making a circus of venomous snakes, and you've still got these people. And what I was thinking about today, and I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Steve Irwin, and I grew up with Steve Irwin, and I saw the right things he was doing, and I also saw the wrong things he was doing, and I saw the double standards with him picking up rattlesnakes in his hand or whatever and saying, "Don't try this at home. I'm a professional." Now that guy's been born into animals his whole life.
Yep.
And okay, he was a professional. He ran a zoo, whatever. He was a reptile expert. But he said, "Don't try this at home." Now what happens 20 years later? Everybody who grew up with Steve Irwin, who was warned, "Don't try this at home," is now trying this at home. And they're telling everybody else not to try this at home. I'm a professional. You've got the channel as well. I'll name them. Chandler's Wildlife. He's running around. Tyler Nolan, who's the other one, Will Nace, the South African guy, Dingo, whatever his bloody name is. You know, this Chandler's running around like a screaming schoolgirl, hyperactive, disrespecting everybody with what he's saying. He doesn't make a word of sense. All right, he might love animals. We all love animals. But don't put yourself out there as a wildlife expert, because you're not. You're just not. You know, what you've done is you've grew up, kept a few things here and there, worked in wherever this, you know, outback
reptiles,
Seminole Indian type thing he's talking about. And it's backwards, it's backyard, you know, it's backyard nonsense, really. There's no professionalism in it at all. There's no duty of care to anyone else. What it is, it's YouTube, it's Facebook, it's your social media presence, and it's likes and shares, so you don't go out and have to get a real job.
Clicks, likes, and shares.
Yeah, well, that's all it is. And there's some people now, you know, people starting podcasts and things like that and blasting everybody else because I've got more followers than you. Well, big whoop.
Yeah, who cares?
A social media presence or Facebook likes and shares and YouTube likes does not make you a reptile expert. You know, there's people who've been in this hobby since before they could walk, like myself.
29 years.
Yeah,
exactly.
29 years, and I'm still young. My boss in the States, Dennis McGee, used to work with Ross Allen.
Okay.
And Carl Caulfield at Staten Island Zoo. He's 79 years of age. He's been working with rattlesnakes his whole life. He worked at Ross Allen's Reptile Institute. He opened Alligator Sound, Ross Allen, in Florida. And he's never been bitten by a venomous snake because he's always been careful. And he's always carried himself with the professionalism to want to educate people on these things the right way, to not use the fear factor, to not use high drama. You know, you've got Brian Barczyk putting videos out now, and he's looking for, like, sort of, I've changed my ways and I want, you know, sort of, I want to be recognized as, you know, I'm trying to do things the right way. Why are you titling your videos Monster Snake Wants to Eat My Face?
Yeah.
That's the first thing someone who doesn't like snakes sees. Monster Snake Wants to Eat My Face.
Yep.
You know, that for years we've all been trying to tell people that these aren't really bad creatures or scary creatures or whatnot. But yeah, because you want more people to click on your video, you just sold us all out. Well,
yeah,
disgusting.
Yep, and that's the Chandler's Wildlife, the Will Naces, the Tyler Nolans. Yep. You know, I had a conversation with Will last week. I wanted to have him on and get his take on things. He had some stuff going on, so we just didn't get to hook up. Sure. But I'm a large, I want to stay away from that end of the hobby. That end of the hobby or industry, again, is hurting us. And again, you back to Brian's videos, and I love Brian. I've had the opportunity to meet him. He's fantastic. But again, when you're naming something that, he does a great job of portraying, hey, I bring people in and get them excited about reptiles, but that one sentence,
let yourself down.
Yeah, one sentence can turn off 10 people, and those 10 people get 10 people, and then before you know it, you've now solidified a group of 100,000 people that are never going to look at it again. And you know, back to the Steve Irwin thing. I was young, you know, before Steve passed, and again, a huge fan. Every show, have DVDs, everything, you know, and I will say that back at that point, I thought, man, this is great. This guy does a good job. But now I look back at it after a good solid, you know, I say 2 years of training, and I still have a lot to learn. But these guys that are 22 and 23 years old, they've been doing this their whole lives. Really? I'm 44 years old. I don't do this as a career. Reptiles isn't a business for me. YouTube will never be a business for me. I work in the pharmaceutical field. I have zero intentions of wanting to be in the herpetoculture field as a have a job in that. I would love to sometime in the future to work with Cody and Pia, you know, or something to that effect. But again, I don't think after my hours with Cody, I couldn't mentor somebody. I wouldn't be ready for that. I wouldn't even do it with my own kids. I would send them to Cody, you know, and it's very disheartening to hear things like, they're my snakes. I can do what I want to do. I know my snake. I'm one with my snake. I know their body language.
Yeah.
I beg to differ. I've hooked out some of these cobras that Cody has, and one day they're like a piece of rope, and then the next day they're biting the hook, they're biting the trash can, you know, they're spitting venom all over the place. They're trying to get you. It's like, you never know. And they really do a number on all of us, you know? Yeah. So
I can't understand how people are feeding them, you know, and, you know, all these guys now, it's like a fraternity, these YouTube guys. Everyone's on each other's video, and, you know, 1 minute they pop up in Kevin's video, and the next minute they're in Brian Costco's and Dave Kaufman's or whatever. And that's, you know, that's great. They're all friends and stuff. But I know for a fact, Kevin must know that these things hurt. Dave Kaufman, you know, come on, if you care about the hobby and you're sponsored by people in the hobby, you're hurting these people down the line when a lot of things and our rights are taken away from us. Look at the Burmese python thing when the, you know, the Lacey Act came in and all of that stuff. It was USARC and, you know, rallying every hobbyist up. It's not just, you know, the Burm keepers who are going to suffer it. They're going to be coming for you next and you next. And it's exactly the same with this.
People don't understand that, though, Graham. They don't. So in the state of Florida, I had a CSP permit. I could keep and breed reticulated pythons and Burmese pythons. So this year, right around the 1st of January, they put through a new bill, which was going to add all green iguanas and all tegus to that. They were going to ban them all. So, of course, the tegu owners and the iguana owners went nuts, rightfully so. You know, I mean, we all did. So what they ended up settling on was, we're going to move green iguanas and black or all tegus to the CSP list. You can breed them and still sell them outside of Florida. You can't sell them in Florida. You can sell them outside of Florida. But we're going to take all the rest of those CSP animals and make them illegal. You can't keep them unless you have a brick and mortar facility, and it can't be residential. So
with one stroke of a pen, that's all it takes. Yeah.
So they're still working the details out. The end of February, I think, is the final meeting, but you're literally taking the rights away from everybody else. And all the tegu and iguana owners were like, whew, okay, we're clear. You guys fend for yourselves. We don't care about your big snakes. Well, here's the thing. What you just did was open Pandora's box, because in 2 years or a year or 6 months, that next bill is going to say, hey, we took 10 animals and banned them. Why don't we just take these other 2 and ban them? And hey, let's add this and this and this and that. And then that ball rolls downhill, and it doesn't necessarily have to be because of a free handler. It could be because of anybody. So people just don't think about it.
Yeah, I think people are so blind to the politics of those sorts of decisions that they're made so, you know, dab-handedly, where, you know, a senator or a politician can just easily add whatever they feel like. If they take a dislike to something, or if they get money thrown at them by certain individuals, then they're going to do that, you know?
Yep.
And you've got people getting bitten by cobras and then making out the cage cleaning incidents when it's on video that, you know, it was just a complete and utter clown show.
Yep. You have what, probably a half dozen people there. They got the snake outside, which I don't know the time frame, but the ruling in Florida is now, if it's non-native, it cannot be outside.
Yeah.
So you can't take a venomous snake outside to take a photograph of it. It's illegal. That's not, you can't do that. So you have this huge snake outside that should be treated with the utmost respect. You have an industry person that's been in reptiles for 50 years, shaking his hat in front of its face.
Yeah.
I just don't get the whole idea of, well, I mean, I do get it. It's all macho, ego, look at me, look at me.
And that guy who's been in the game for over 50 years, that's all he is. Ego and big mouth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I tell everybody that says, "Oh, but you should respect him." No, he's a criminal. I don't respect criminals.
he's a
That's it.
crook, and he's talking
Don't
about
care.
keeping animals in space now and things like
Yeah.
that, and everything's going to have its like massive space. You know what? 30 years ago, that guy was sellotaping things to his body to get
Mm-hmm.
them through airports. Did he care
Exactly.
about the animal's space then? No, he never.
No, no. And you know what? Now it's just a big show.
Yeah.
So again, he's not relevant in any other form. So he's got to be relevant one way or the other.
Well,
So,
that's it. Yeah.
but yeah, that's like I said, I don't. I'm not saying that I should. Anybody should be dictated as to how they take care of their animals. That's up to you.
Yeah.
My big concern is that when we publish it online for everybody to see, people like yourself and me and Cody and some of the other great venomous keepers that we have down here are the ones now that have to defend what's real and what's fake. You know, like
I'm really disappointed that there isn't more people as well, sort of wanting to push back. And I know some people think that it's not going to get you anywhere, but as a hobby, united against these people should just be ostracized. You shouldn't be given the time of day in the hobby. People shouldn't talk to them or want to sit down and interview them. They shouldn't name them. They shouldn't be sharing anything that they've done. They shouldn't be giving them the limelight. And I can't believe that the hobby, well, no, I'm not over there yet, but I will be, in the near future. I can't believe that they're not getting chased out of town by everybody. It just seems to be, like you said earlier, if it's not affecting me immediately, then, I don't really care. I haven't got the time or energy to have that battle when all it takes is to just stop sharing this stuff, stop feeding them, stop commenting.
Yeah.
It's the ones who comment on these things are the ones with the jackass mentality, with the sort of, the rebellious, they can do what they want attitude, sort of thing. And it's the ones who are inexperienced as well, who sort of look at these people as experts when these inexperienced people don't know anything wiser, they don't know who the Cody Bartolinis are of the world, So I don't know what the solution is.
One of the things that I've asked Cody is, and I've asked other people, what makes a professional? What makes a college, let's just look at an athlete. What makes a college NFL football player? A college player gets drafted into the NFL, it automatically makes them a professional. However, they're not a professional if they don't do their job because they're fired. And at that point, if they're not any good at it, they're never going to be a professional. So in this industry, what's your opinion or what's your definition of a professional?
I suppose it's someone who's sort of thinking about the next generation as well and how to better practices as time goes on. If you do any job in the world, I mean, if you're not doing your job correctly, you'll get a warning and a disciplinary, and then you'll be out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And most jobs these days demand more year upon year and improvements and better numbers and better percentages or sales or whatnot. So the record should be getting better with things. Now, if we translate that to animals, then we should be keeping animals healthier for longer, having better reproductive success. If you keep them venomous, you shouldn't be having any incidents where somebody gets bitten or envenomated. And you should be eliminating all risks. Every job now is really big on health and safety.
Mm-hmm.
And every task you do now, especially where I currently work, is risk assessed. So they go through a sort of a sheet where they do 10 steps of where the job could be dangerous and how dangerous it is and how to manage that risk. And, if something's heavy, you've got to use 2 people to lift it and things like that, or all for, to negate the risk. Now, these guys are not doing that, are they? They're not using the venomous handling tools. They may be using them half-heartedly, but they're not keeping things at arm's length and distance from the body. They're bringing other people around in the theatre of where they've got the animal out and putting those people at risk too. taking things outside when it's against the law, and that thing, you know, could flee and get out, and then again it's in the Everglades or whatnot. So they're not minimizing the risk, you know, where you take somebody like Cody or, you know, my friend out there in Dallas, Dave Spicer, he'll go through everything with his Venomous, where if he can make something safer and find a better way of doing it, then, you know, they'll integrate that into their protocol of how to do things, how somebody doesn't get bit. We're in a COVID crisis at the moment where people need ventilators, and these people are handling cobras and crates and things like that. You know, if you need a respirator, you're not going to get one because chances are somebody with COVID's on one. So good luck, you know, take your chances.
And that's the other thing too. Kristen Wiley has a great packet set up for people to do their IND, to get their what does it stand for? The experimental drug license through the FDA, so that you can purchase and keep anti-venom on hand.
Yeah.
How reckless is it for somebody to take the chance of taking a bite and take that anti-venom away from a Kentucky reptile zoo or a Bronx zoo or one of the big zoos? Now their people are in trouble. And like you just said, maybe if you get that anti-venom quick, maybe you won't need to be on a ventilator, but now their people are at risk. And
I love Jim and Kristen, and just the things that they do that they don't have to do, you know, for the responsible people in the hobby is just above and beyond, and they don't get enough thanks and gratitude for that. Now these free handling people are never going to get anti-venom because they simply won't pay for it. No, I don't think anyway. They won't pay for it.
Nope. And the sad fact is,
because it's expensive.
The sad fact is the majority of them probably have the money for it.
Well, you know, maybe off, you know, whatever revenue they're generating online.
I mean, if you have your IND and you're smart enough to be able to get on the ground floor with somebody like Jim and Kristen, where they're doing a large order of it, you're okay to get, you'll get the stuff that you need if you do it properly. But none of these guys, they all think they're bulletproof, and they're never going to take a bite. I know my animals. I don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's very disheartening at times, you know.
Yeah, it's you know, as you get older, you sort of, when you're young, you still try and figure out why people do what they do and why they think the way they think, and why are you so mean, or why are you so nasty, or why are you so stupid, you know. But as you get older, you kind of like, I'm not trying to figure you out anymore, because there's no psychiatrist in the world that's going to get inside that reasoning. It's just, I know I'm very different to that, and, you know, it's about thinking about yourself, or it's about thinking of those around you. And unfortunately, I sound like an old man now, and I'm 36, but with this entitlement generation that are coming through now, where I can do what I want, when I want, you know.
Yep. Gimme.
Exactly.
That's it, handout.
Yeah, and no respect for those who came before, those who did the work, those, you know, who put in the blood, sweat, and tears. Everything's so freely available now, and it does make me sound like an old miserable gat, and my fiance will probably tell me off for that. but it's just true. But
here's the thing, Graham, it doesn't. You're right. I have a 23-year-old, I have a 27-year-old and a 23-year-old and a 21-year-old. My daughter just turned 19 and my youngest son is 15. So I see that age group where it's just gimme. Everything is now instant gratification, one click, you know, and you're there. And and we've always tried to teach our kids, hey, you know, that's not how this works. You know, there's going to be times when it benefits you, and there's going to be times when you got to work hard. You know, so but these guys are very selfish. They're not looking at the big picture. I don't want to attack anybody. I don't want anybody to think that this is a direct slap in the face. You know, I'm sure we're going to have tons of comments, you know, with support for Tyler and Will and Chandler. And that's great. I'm glad that people are willing to back other people up. But let's be honest. Why? Just give me a good reason, and again, don't try this at home. I'm a professional. I have a license. I've done this under the watchful eyes of who?
Yeah.
Who? Underground Reptiles. That's where. So, I mean, like I said, I can't say enough about the people that I've got to meet through Cody and Pia, and going and working there is amazing. I mean,
yeah.
I hear people that have been working with reptiles or working venomous say, "Hey, I can't use 2 hooks. It's awkward. I can't do it without 2 hooks. It's weird. I started with 2 hooks. Everything I do is with 2 hooks.
Yeah.
That's just me now."
When it comes to when you're comparing the Leopards and Vipers, I mean, it's 2 very different sort of ways of handling, isn't it? I mean,
oh yeah,
a Leopards can jump the hook really quick, and if you haven't got a Viper on 2 hooks, then they don't feel safe being off the ground, and they're just totally different responses. Or you've got a Cobra on a table or something in front of you, and you can sort of keep it at distance with a hook, but the next minute it's submarining and it's up and it's in your face, So it's a whole new level and a whole new ball game, and you can't just generalize every single species, because you've got a Leopards out there that are really sort of easy on the hook, and you've got a Leopards that are absolute nightmares, like mambas on hooks, and someone lost a life last year, wasn't it, to a mamba bite? The guy in South Africa,
Yep.
You just can't take animals for granted, and as much as we've kept them and bred them for generations indoors or whatever, they're still unpredictable wild animals. We can domesticate things so far, but they're not a dog or a cat. They're unpredictable wild animals, and you need to risk assess everything and make things safer for yourself and safer for everybody else, and safer for the bigger picture, that the other people in the hobby who want to be able to enjoy these animals and appreciate things and be able to carry on doing what they do responsibly. Because the responsible guys are only the ones who are going to suffer. These guys will just move on to the next fad. In 5 years it's going to be whatever, getting your arse out on Instagram or whatever, instead of going out and getting a real job, because it's just easy money. Well, really, along with that, you're degrading yourself, and everything you stand for is really bullshit.
Yep.
Do things the right way. Do things with sort of other people in mind. That's what I'd like to see. I know it'll never happen with certain individuals, but
I would love
an unselfish world.
Listen, I'm the probably one of the easiest going people around. I mean, I'll work with anybody. To the point of sometimes being a fault. That's one of my faults, is no matter what somebody does or says, or I'll still just keep going back. It just doesn't matter. That's just me. But there comes a point where these people and others, and this happens everywhere. It's in every type of industry and hobby and whatever. But if you have enough people saying, "Hey, stop, this is what we're saying," if enough people are saying it, well, what are you doing? You're just continuing to do it and stomping your feet and acting a fool about it because they're your snakes, blah blah blah.
Yeah, when I went to Arkansas a year and a half ago, we went out road cruising most nights and looking for timbers and things like that. And there was a young guy sort of wanting to impress us, show us around and stuff. And he lived out there in the Ouachita National Forest. And when he first introduced himself to my boss said he came up to him and he had a copperhead just sat in the palm of his hand.
Ugh.
And my boss Dennis said, "No, you don't do that, And as I met this guy, he was talking to me about, I know my snakes, I free handle them, things like that. And I knew this guy was sort of trying to impress me for a job, future down the line when we open up in Hot Springs. And I put it straight to him. I said, "I will never employ you while you are doing that. 1, you're going to hurt yourself. 2, you're going to hurt us as a business, as a tourist attraction. And 3, you're hurting everybody else around who's going to watch you put a video up on YouTube of you doing this and telling everybody else not to do it because you've got a special bond with these animals.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I guarantee that animal doesn't have a special bond with you. You know, one false move, or if you accidentally knock it on the tail, it's going to stick its fangs into you. You know, but these people, I think, just need a bit of guidance, and some of them will take guidance, and I think you can change some of them. Some of them, I don't think they really care. You know?
No, they don't. Like you said, they'll move on to the next thing, and that's and good. You know, hopefully it doesn't affect us, and that's again the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I've heard that exact. You said it earlier. You know, people say, "Oh, they're not going to change." Well, you know what? Unless if you don't make the effort, you're right. They're never going to change because nobody's going to know. If you make effort and nothing happens, I can go to bed at night and say, I made effort. It just didn't work, but I can clear my head now and say, obviously I'm the only one that cares, you know? So
you can put a scientific paper in front of me, which changes scientifically everything I learned before and thought was ingrained in my head about something, an animal or whatnot. And if you provide the evidence to show that it's different to what I thought, then I'm open-minded enough to where I'll go, hang on, you know, this is fact here. That's having an open mind and being able to listen to reason and things like that. Some people just you'll put science. Look at the COVID crisis is another one. You put science in front of them. No, it's a conspiracy. You know.
Listen, I'll be the first one.
The doctors are all against us.
Yeah, I'll be the first one to say, and Cody will back this up 100%. When COVID first started, I said, this is bull. Yep. You know, it's nothing. It's nothing. It isn't anything. Sure. And then, you know, we all had a little bit of a scare, and it was like, man, I had to get tested. Yeah, I had to get tested and stay at home. And I'm like, man, as I'm thinking about all the people that I came into contact with, I'm like, phew. And then all the people that they could have come in contact with, and it sets your mind straight. And now it's like, okay, if we go out, everybody in the house brings a mask. We all wear masks. You know, you try to social distance. You always have hand sanitizer. You just do the things that, it doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't hurt anything. It's not, you know, but again, I was one of the ones that I complained the most about it. And after that scare, it was like, okay, you know what? It's time to listen to these people because they're the doctors. They've gone to school, you know.
You looked at the numbers and from you know, from last March where we had nothing, and then all of a sudden there's over 2 million people.
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah.
Really scary.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, and again, I don't want this to be, you know, a bash all these guys session, because I will say this, they do care for their animals, 100%. And they've got very nice animals, and that's, you know, let's just be smart about it. You know, that's all. And, you know, I love hots. I went to Cody's. My first day there was, all I want is eyelash vipers. That's all I've ever wanted. And Cody was like, okay, well, we're going to go clean mambas. And I'm like, oh boy. And now I all I want is, I want everything.
Doesn't Cody have those blue Guatemalan bicolors, is it?
Yep. He's got a pair of bicolors. There's, he's got Arifer, the yellow blotch palm viper, which he produced 9, I think it was 9 or 11 babies.
You don't see anyone like where in sort of like the late 90s, there was a bunch of people who had all those sort of rare Bothriechis. And, you know, and you don't really see that now, but I know Cody's working with some of the, you know, the montane species.
When you come down here, you will be amazed. the way they're set up. You know, I mean, it's unbelievable to see animals like Cody keeps and how he keeps them. You know, the bilineata. He's got a pair of bilineata. I've been going there for 2 years. I've seen the male one time.
Yeah.
It stays in the cage with the female, and you never see it. And Cody says, oh yeah, he comes out like once every 3 or 4 months. He comes right to the glass. I feed him, and he goes right back in the hole. Yeah. And that snake, that pair produces babies every year like clockwork. And it's just a testament to the care of the animals.
It's called husbandry.
Yep. Yeah. They're happy. And, you know, people don't realize how rewarding it is when you keep something and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and you just leave it alone and admire it for what it is.
That's it. You know, there's no need to even, you know, when you've got a snake like that, an arboreal pit viper, which you feed in like maybe once a month, you know, once every 3 weeks at most, there's really no need to be in the cage all the time. You've just got to sit there and appreciate it. You can get the cage, you know, planted up, looking really beautiful, and it's living art, and it's on you. You know, it could be a focal point in your house or whatnot, provided everything's safe, and it's beautiful. It's like a piece of the jungle in your home, and that's how herpetoculture sort of should be. You know, it should be. Can't anthropomorphize these things into being some sort of pet puppy dog tame animal, because it just never will be.
No.
Appreciate it for what it is, what you've got, and you're fortunate enough to have the privilege of something that maybe you've seen in a book in the rainforest when you were a kid looking through a book on, you know, on rainforest animals, and now you've got the privilege to have it in your home, and that's just a fantastic thing. And God forbid we ever lose that. You know, with the animal rights people as well banging on our doors all the time. You think these things should never be kept. They belong in the wild, and then you look at the wild and it's just this forest that's been chopped down.
Yeah.
So there's no wild left.
Yeah, it's not the wild.
No, it's yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy. And you know,
it's amazing to see things from the Bothriachus to you know, the black mambas, the big, you know, the 2 pairs of big black mambas, you know, that are 10 plus feet, that are when I first saw Cody work those big black mambas, first thing I asked him was, is there something wrong with them? Because I've never seen in all the videos you see, you know, mouths wide open, heads flat, hissing, going crazy. And Cody's like, listen, you know, just so you know, these are very dangerous. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And he's just like, whoop, 2 hooks and the garbage can lid on it. And he's like, wow, that was easier than it ever was.
Sure.
I've never seen those snakes act aggressive, not even when they feed. You know, he'll feed off a pair of 4-foot tongs and they'll come up and kind of nose poke the rat and then grab it and work it down. And it's like, again, a testament to these animals all know Cody and how he is so precise with what he's done, and what he's taught all of us at the RPI is it's just a methodical, just progression through everything that you do is just nice and smooth, you know.
It's like Scott Iper says, you know, keeping venomous should really be one of the most mundane things there is, because you know, you can make these things strike and hood up and lash out and jump the hook at you if you want, but that's you spending longer than you have to with it, you know, keeping it out between shift boxes or whatever for as long as possible, for whatever, a photo opportunity or to get it up in the camera or whatnot. You can see all of that behavior if you want, but if you want to do things safely, it should be as boring as moving the animal while it's comfortable from one box to a trash can or whatnot, you know, and that's how simple it is. You service the cage, the animal goes back in, and it's over with. It's a pleasant, everything's right with the world, you know, it's a pleasant experience for everyone.
Yep, cage to can to cage. So when somebody at work says, hey, what do you do? Cage to can to cage. And in between there, you pick up the poop, you clean the water dish, you throw a dead rat, you throw a pre-killed rat in, and you toss the animal back in, you lock it, and life is good. You know, I mean, it's mundane. And that's, you know, one of the other things that I had the pleasure of meeting Scott on one of on the Snakes and Stogies podcast when Cody came on with us. And he said the same thing. It's supposed to just be bleh. And I would tell Cody, I'd be like, hey, you know what? I'm just not feeling working that snake today. I just don't feel right. So I'm not, you know, in my mind, if my mind's not right with it, then I'm not going to do it. And that's one of the first things that Cody told me was, hey, if you get to a point where it just doesn't feel right, it's time to stop. That's it. Yeah. That poop is not going to do it the next day. It's not going to go anywhere. It's poop.
It's like Carl Barden says on the Venom interviews, isn't it? It's like if you feel sick or something and you come into work, you're not going to be working hot. You're not going to be certainly working with any of the animals, you know, if you've been drinking the night before, if you've worked a long shift or whatnot,
Yep.
you know, you just, and your mind's not in it, and you know, that's when mistakes happen, and they happen to the best of people.
Oh yeah.
And they're doing the right practices. Now, imagine when some of these, not the best of the people, start doing the wrong practices. Numbers are going to fly, aren't they? You know, some of these people have been bitten already, haven't they? You know.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. And listen, not to beat a dead horse. A bite is a bite, and plenty of good people have taken bites. But if you don't use your safety precautions and you're careless, your bite could have been avoided. It's the same thing you said before, EHS, health and safety. You know, it's a big deal where I work as well. You know, chemical safety, food safety, everything is about safe. And more places start to crack down on that, and people just don't understand that, you know, that's just the best way to be. I would bet money that if you went into most of these guys' facilities, there's no emergency lights, there's no flashlights, there's no protection there for you. At Cody's, there's flashlights everywhere. They're all throughout the house. So if something happens, you know, within arm's reach, there's a torch, you know. So people just don't realize that those little things could equal something horrific, you know. So I mean, it's not about entertainment. These are live animals, you know.
Yeah. Sadly, you know, these things have become part of entertainment with the advent of YouTube and things like that. Well, I see now with a lot of these YouTube guys, and again, I'm not bashing on them, but the camera's on them and it's not on the animal anymore. What happened to showing the animal? It's about, you know, the two presenters who know each other goofing off or whatnot. And I'm just like, when they're at these facilities and stuff, I'm like, show me some frigging snakes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually turn the camera around, because we don't need to see you try and be the next superstar personality, and show the animals, because they're the stars of the show.
Yeah.
You know, with anything. But, you know, it's like my kid watches a lot of YouTube, and he's got and there's these in America. You guys have got these, you know, millionaire kids who've got YouTube channels. Yeah, that's what
now. My kids are. Oh yeah, same here.
And they're walking around the mansion with their pool and things like that, and they're just messing around every day, not having to go to work, and it looks great. And all these kids are sort of like, and all this every 5 minutes are saying, like the spiel that comes out with all of these YouTube guys now. And I'm sure some of these reptile guys are starting to say it in their sleep now. They're saying it that much. Remember to comment, remember to like, remember to share, and it's all part of this. Yeah. Click the notification bell and hit the camera on the way, you know. And it just, again, I sound like a grumpy old man, but it just baffles me. It really does. It's great. I love YouTube because you can get so many things on there, and anything you want to find, you can find. You know, you want to find a nature documentary or whatnot, you can find one on there, you know, easily. But I just think anyone can put anything on there, and you know, the content isn't scored so much. All right, you know, you might get likes and dislikes, but junk can be on there as gospel.
Oh,
you know what I mean? You know.
Yeah, if you seem to know the part, people will take that as gospel. Like, oh, this guy really knows what he's talking about. The day the CSP ban was announced, Chandler went on and said that they are banning all venomous. And it was blowing up, and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? It's a bill being presented by the state Senate. Go read it. It says nothing about venomous in there anywhere. Go read it. He's not right. Oh no, it's Chandler's Wildlife, he knows everything. I'm like, no. It has nothing to do with venomous. Trust me. The first thing I did was ask my investigator. Obviously, I had a CSP license. Hey, well, how's this going to fare for venomous? And he said it has nothing to do with that. So it's completely separate. So, you know, I mean, it'll be very nice, Graham, to see the facilities come to light here in the U.S. And you know, we definitely can't wait till you get down here and can come out.
You guys are welcome anytime you want to come up. You know, you'll get the
yeah.
VIP tour. You'll be welcome in my home anytime.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to thank you for coming on, and, we'll kind of cut this off, and I definitely want to do some more stuff now that I'm doing this on Zoom. We can add more people. So maybe we can set up a round table of sorts. We get Cody
Anytime,
on and a couple other people. Yeah, for sure.
Great. Sounds
for
good.
Sure. Hey, man, thanks for coming on. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And
Will do, Paul.
I'll get this posted. It'll probably be a couple weeks. I'm releasing the first one this week, so I'll keep you informed. And again, I look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Sure thing, man. Take care.
Yep. Thanks a lot, man.
See you soon,
Have
Paul.
a great day.